We're talking hockey, Rosie and Rupp are talking hockey. JR on the show talking hockey. When the hell did the Stars end up at 6 in the conference?
Hello and welcome to That's Hockey Talk. It's a beautiful night for talking hockey on the internet. I am your host, Nick Moraldo, and joining me, as always, that beautiful voice singing that sensational sound at Bubba Gumpino. Gumps, how you doing, brother?
All is well until I saw the fucking Stars lined up against the Avalanche in the first round all of a sudden.
Yeah, you boys were sitting pretty, and then you took quite a tumble there. And then, of course, joining us is the third part of our trio, the resident Game 7 goal-scoring hero, Stanley Cup champion himself, Mike Rupp. Rupper, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, boys. Life comes at you fast, Gumps. You got to be on your fucking toes. And your Dallas Stars haven't been taking care of business like they should be. And now all of a sudden, they're going to get the defending Cup champs. Hey, listen, there's an opportunity still. Minnesota, Colorado, I think, will still win that division. But then they still got Minnesota. And then it's about who's got home ice. So, man, some tough sledding for your pesky Stars, man.
I mean, we are Minnesota. We're the Stars, baby. The Minnesota North Stars. We're not worried about fucking Minnesota.
How about if they wear the reverse retros and it just
can't fuck off, dude. You can't do it. It's fucking
I
us.
mean,
That's
that might
us.
be the play.
We're the
That might be
fucking
the
Stars, dude.
I don't know,
We're
man.
your fucking wild shit, dude. We're the Stars.
That would be quite a battle. We got quite a show for everybody tonight. We had a pre-recorded conversation with New Jersey Devils general manager Tom Fitzgerald that we will get to later in the episode. But more importantly, we get a chance to talk to a legend, and I don't want to keep him waiting any longer. I want to pick this man's brain, and I want to find out what's going on up there with this game on the ice and what he's thinking and what he's seeing. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us now. He was drafted straight out of high school. Okay. No college for this man. Went straight out of high school, 8th overall in the 1988 NHL entry draft to Chicago Blackhawks. Played over 20 seasons, spent time in Phoenix with Philadelphia Flyers, San Jose Sharks, the LA Kings. He is the third American to score over 500 goals, 9-time All-Star, the legendary good old JR Jeremy Roenick. Mr. Roenick, thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Oh, cheers, boys! What a great intro, man! I loved it. I'm sitting over here laughing already. We haven't even gotten going, so I'm bringing you guys my new chocolate whiskey. I'm going to enjoy it with you guys tonight. Whiskeyinthewild.com. Make sure all your listeners check it out. They will love it. So
absolutely. Can you say that? What was that one more time? Yeah. What is it?
Yeah, it's called Whiskey in the Wild. And this is the bottle without the flask. We actually have a flask that's attached to the bottle.
That's a great move.
Yeah. Because hey, listen, never leave home without it, right? You know that one, the traveling spirit. So, I was up skiing. We were up skiing in Vail a couple weeks ago, and it came in very handy with that flask in the pocket as you're going up the ski lifts, man. I'll tell you that ride down was a lot warmer.
Wait, isn't it though? Doesn't the flask like fit inside the bottle or something?
Yes. Yeah, the flask sits right inside the bottle and sticks right in there. And
hey, JR's not fucking around out here, boys.
It's a hell of a gift, man. So if you want to do something nice for one of your friends or a birthday, or if they're, you have something coming up, holiday season coming up, Father's Day is coming up. It's actually Mother's Day, because this is a whiskey that most women will just love.
There we go. Hey, that our boy Nick's getting married in about 2 weeks, so we'll give.
So how about this?
We'll give one to Carly. We'll give one to Carly and for you, man. There you go.
No,
perfect.
It is a great present for your groomsmen. That's perfect.
JR, I love the way you're spinning right now. I absolutely love it.
I'm not a groomsman, but I'll take a bottle too, Nick. Thanks, brother.
Hey, good to be with you guys, man. Good to be with you guys.
Has that been something you always wanted to get into? How'd you come about it?
I think I'd like to dabble in a lot of different things, as you know me, Rupper. So, it started in 2020 during the pandemic, and it's like, we need something to do. Let's find something that we can rally around with my buddies and some friends of mine. And, it seems like everybody's doing spirits, whether it's, Chelly doing his tequila, Eddie Belfour is doing his whiskey. You have LeBron doing his, you have Charles Barkley doing his, Michael Jordan doing his, Gretz doing. I mean, it just seems to be everywhere. So I'm like, you know what? Let's try to dabble in something that that I like, which is whiskey. But I also tried to do something that was a little different. So this is a chocolate orange and a chocolate blend whiskey, which is a little bit different from the whiskey connoisseurs. But I will tell you what it will do is it will allow the non-whiskey drinkers to really indulge and enjoy a glass of whiskey with the people that are true crazy whiskey connoisseurs, whether it's over a post round of golf or sitting at a fire with a cigar. And it brings more people into the whiskey world, which I think has been a tremendous success for us so far since we launched in August of 2022. So it was a pandemic job. It was a pandemic idea.
Love that.
It's awesome. It's speaking up our alley. And anybody to check it out. Well, give it the site one more time.
It's whiskeyinthewild.com.
Whiskeyinthewild.com. Hey, so listen, I appreciate your time, man. This is awesome that you're popping on here with us. I got to tell you this, JR, because I don't think I've ever told you this before, but I called my mom today because I'm like, Mom, I got to get this picture. And it'll make sense. This is
Oh, no.
It was when I was probably squirt peewee. Jeremy Roenick was my guy. And you're in Chicago. And I was like, dude, know what I did? I had this picture, a specific picture. I'm leaning on the net, like your old pictures where you have your batting photo, like when you're a kid or whatever.
Yep.
And I'm leaning on the net, straight up, all tucked in, all the way around, long tackle belt hanging out.
Oh, yeah.
I was little Jeremy Roenick, piss and vinegar and everything. I loved it. I'm like,
it.
Mom, I need you to find that photo. She couldn't dig it up, but if I find it, I'll shoot it over to you. I'll post it because
that's
I
awesome.
loved it. I loved you back at your whole career, but then when I had to play against you, I had to lose that. But those early days in Chicago, man, can you talk about those? Like, and you coming on the scene, Nick mentioned you coming straight from high school, like you were. I just remember, I mean, the one year you had 107 points, 130 penalty minutes, I remember just trucking guys all over the place. Is that like, was that always you, or did you get there? You're like, dude, this is the time to shine. I'm going to let it all hang out.
Bro, a lot of people don't understand. When I was drafted in 1988, as a high school kid, I was 150 pounds. And at the draft, I actually put those little weights in my pocket in case they tried to get me to stand on a scale. During the pre-draft interviews, I was small, and I was never a guy that ran around and hit. I was very, I would say I was just the opposite of a physical. I was actually more of a pussy when it came to hitting, to tell you the truth. I was one of those guys that got hit and I'm like, oh God, one of those soccer player guys. So, but the problem is when I got to the National Hockey League, when I decided to finally, to sign at the end of the summer that year, I left school after, obviously you just said, after my junior year of high school. And I walked into the Chicago Blackhawks locker room, and the first person that I saw, guys, was Al Secord naked. Let me tell you something. Nothing scares you more as a young hockey player than to walking into an NHL locker room and seeing somebody that has no teeth, receding hairline, beard, cuts on his face, and more hair on his chest than you have on your entire body. And I shit myself. I'm not kidding. I was in fear of my safety, and I skated extra fast because I was afraid that these guys were going to catch me. But in my second preseason game in Kalamazoo, I was one of those guys that swoop, and you guys know the mentality: finish your check. And back then it was Mike Keenan, and he wanted to have the meanest team. He wanted to have the hardest hitting team, the strongest team, most intimidating team, and I wasn't one of those guys. I was swinging by checks. I was chasing the puck. Well, I got back to the bench, and Mike Keenan grabbed me by the throat and literally stuck his fingers behind my esophagus and literally squeezed me to where I couldn't breathe, spitting on my face, saying, if you ever fucking swing by a check again, you'll never fucking play a game as long as you fucking live for me. I'm like, oh my, and I'm literally almost in tears and fear. Like this, I'm two games in preseason, and this coach is already challenging me and threatening my whole playing career if I don't hit. So what do? I put on bigger shoulder pads and literally turned myself into a human torpedo and started crushing people, because if I didn't, Mike Keenan wasn't going to play me. And, I ice bags every day, separated shoulders, all the things. But I found that the fans loved it. They loved it when I hit somebody big. They cheered. Then I'd score a goal, and it got to be where it was like you had the triple threat, and it just became part of my game. But it was part of my game because Mike Keenan literally scared the shit out of me and threatened my whole playing career if I didn't do it.
You brought up a great thing and a great point, and I've I experienced it to a different level, but part of it too. It's like maybe you could talk to this. Maybe you don't feel this way. You could tell me that I'm wrong. It's fine, but like playing in the NHL, I think it's really important to have. Everybody has that moment where you're scared. You got to overcome it, right? You've got to sit there. I mean, there's times where I'd lose sleep before games because I knew that I have to do something, and I wasn't scoring goals consistently enough to stay. I wanted to stay, right? And what I learned in the NHL, and this is really cool because who I was off the ice, I really learned that I can have this different persona on the ice, right? And I started like leaning into that. And for me in my career, it helped me to stay in the league, but also made me different. And you need to be different to stay, right? And so maybe you could touch on that because you see some of these guys. I mean, so many in your career that like teddy bears, like Jim McKenzie. I play with Jim McKenzie. Jimmy McKenzie's one of the greatest men I ever met in my life. Like soft spoken, whatever. That dude was scary on the ice. You know what I mean? Like, and some of these, and I started realizing, like, okay, I can go out there. It's almost like you're a superhero. I can go out there. I can piss off the fans. I can make everybody want to kill me, and I did my job. But off the ice, dude, like I got no problem with you. Like that's something you had to struggle with a little bit.
So it's kind of funny you say that because I was more of a timid type of person and very quiet and wasn't the one guy, wasn't the gregarious guy. And once I did start that mentality in the game and started having success and getting a kind of a reputation, Rupper. And I think I think my off ice mentality and persona kind of changed into the way that I was on the ice, and with the exception of treating people really well. I was always a big fan person. I always loved to treat the fans, to throwing them pucks or signing autographs whenever I can, stopping and talking. I've always been a extremely fan friendly type of player. But as you guys know, it's no secret. I became very outspoken, very egocentric sometimes with my opinions, and was not afraid to tell them and be that guy that was a little bit more brash and bold about my opinions.
And one of the only guys that would do it too. And that's what was good for the game. Like you were ahead of the time.
Well, yeah, I think then again, I think you have the media that create different personas for their own narrative, right? So, I truly believe throughout a lot of years, the media created a Jeremy Roenick off the ice that really didn't exist. On the camera, I showed different mentalities by saying certain things that nobody else would, giving opinions that I think people need honesty and they want to hear some real honesty. They don't want to hear cliched bullshit night in, night out. They want to hear who you think played bad. They want to hear who you don't like. They want to hear when you feel that you guys should have been better, or the other team was lucky that they fucking won a game. So I always wanted to give that. I wanted to give that to the fan, and I wanted to make it fun for them to get away from whatever their life was. Maybe they were dealing with their job, with their health, or whatever, and just for a little bit forget about something that they wanted to forget about because they were watching the game, they were watching hockey, they were watching a sport that they love. And whether they agreed with me or not, it didn't matter, because it was entertainment, and it always has been for me.
JR, that's an incredible answer, and it's something I was hoping to talk with you about coming into this conversation because, as you mentioned, like you said a lot of things in your career. You were very outspoken, and it took a lot of guts to do that. Not a lot of players do that nowadays. You mentioned the cliche answers. Guys go to those so routinely, and I think it's because they don't want to cause distractions for themselves for their teams, but like. It almost feels like nowadays people are a little more accepting of the realness, and I think with today's guys, I think a lot of people would like to see that side of some of these guys. Crosby,
Sure.
great player, but not exactly known for his speaking skills. And Ovechkin has this great personality, but you only see it so often. How do you feel about that with today's game, with the younger generation of guys? Obviously, now the network deals and they've got the ESPN, so there's a little bit more access technically. But do you think that's something the guys should show a little more personality on and off the ice?
I do. I always thought that. Unfortunately, our sport is one of guys that are extremely respectful and follow the rules. And a lot of the rules that come down through the National Hockey League, whether it's from the main offices in New York that go right on down to the individual teams and their management, are, there's nobody that's above the team. Don't be bringing no attention to yourself, even if it is kind of entertaining. And I think a lot of players, especially today, don't want to have that expectation or having eyes on them and having the pressure of having to be one of those players and knowing that they have to do something and perform. And when they call something out on themselves, maybe afraid of failing in how they should be or how they're trying to perceive themselves. So I don't think it's chicken shit. I just think they just don't want to risk humiliation, risk failure, or bring themselves above what they think is, oh, I'm bigger than a team. It's not bigger than a team. It's literally it's creating entertainment, it's creating narratives, it's creating maybe it gets some other guys to get excited and energizes your teammates. It's a different generation now, and I think it's a lot weaker mentally. I think they're physically stronger and faster and all that stuff, but as terms as the mentality, in terms of the toughness outside and inside, is totally changed. And people just don't want to stick their necks out because they're afraid of maybe the failure aspect. And the league wants a squeaky clean league. They want you to follow the rules. They want you to walk in line. They want you to pull your end of the bargain and don't get out of line. And I think players see that, and they fear for their careers. They fear for their spot in the team, and they don't do it.
Very well said. That's incredible. I wanted to dive into your career a little bit as well. You spent some time in Arizona as a newly formed franchise. You go out there and you're a well-established star, veteran player. You go out there. What was that like? What was that transition for you moving out to Arizona, being in this new world, in this new hockey climate, trying to build the game out there?
Well, it was shocking because I never expected to be moved out of Chicago in my prime. Right. So 96, when I ended up getting traded, it was a low point in my career, in my life, because that's the first time really where a team said, "Hey, listen, we don't want you anymore. You're expendable." So still I knew what I wanted. I was right. I knew that I was worth what I was asking for. So I knew going to a new city, especially Arizona. Let's see, it's really terrible when you live in a beautiful state where you can wear flip-flops and t-shirts to practice, where you can raise your family without having too much pressure on you. You can go out to dinner without being bothered, and you're on a team that is a pretty stacked team. I mean, we had Keith Tkachuk, Craig Janney, we had Adam Oates at one point, Teppo Numminen, Javi Bulin. I mean, we had a monster teams when I was there, when I first got there. And I really took it by the bull by the horns, and really tried to make hockey the most exciting sport in Arizona. And it was fun. We taught a lot of people about the game. We had whiteouts with 17,000 people in a half in a building that was built for basketball and not hockey, but people loved it. And my first 5 years there were absolutely spectacular. It was a fun place to play. Then, they changed ownerships and totally, demoralized the whole mentality of Phoenix hockey.
Hey, you know what? Hey, Gumps, before I kick it to you, I want to talk about during that time too. It's like one funny thing is the first time I met you was actually in Arizona. It was coming out of the lockout, and I think we were skating. We were skating in Arizona, and you were back there. You've already left Arizona at that time, but you were back there skating. And again, that's, like I said before, you're my guy. So it was like one of my first times I played against you, but I never like socialized with you or talked with you. And we're just having skates with a bunch of NHL guys in the area. And so I'm playing for the Coyotes at the time, and we're skating. And you came up to me, and I thought it was so cool. You came up to me, and we're skating around warm-ups. You gave me a little whack on the pads, and you're like, I remember distinctly. You're like, "Oh, hey, Jeremy, nice to meet you." He's like, I'm glad I'm skating with you today, and not, we played against each other, whatever. I think you were in Philly at the time, or
that's
whatever.
That's right.
And it was cool. And I said to you, I go, so I fucking love you. You lived up to the expectations, because I go to him like, "Oh, you still got a place here?" You go, "A place? I got 3." Or whatever the number was. I'm like, "Oh, you still got a house here?" You're like, "Rapper, I got a bunch of houses here. Don't worry about that." But that was I was like, "Oh, JR Styles, this is him, man. I love this." Funny. And we had Shane Doan on, we had Mike Johnson on. They both kind of touched on this story. Maybe you can get it from a different vantage point or talk about that team, because that team was fucking loaded. And the story what was it, Nick? It was Johnny went up to Keith, right? Big Walt, and goes, I guess what Big Walt said,
he's standing there in his robe, and he tells him there's 2 rules on this team.
No, there's 2 rules. That's right. He had a couple others, but there's 2 major rules. Yes. Go ahead.
What was it, Nick? Go ahead.
I only know one was pass the puck to Big Walt, but I can't remember.
And the second one was don't forget rule number 1.
So the way Big Walt said it to me when I first walked in. Now remember, I'm walking in, and Keith is the captain, but I'm coming in, 50 goal scorer, 100 points, been in the game 4 years longer than Walt, and that didn't matter to Walt. Walt was the captain. Walt ran the team. Walt made the rules. And I remember walking in, and I remember Walt going, "It's about time you fucking got here," because I was a little bit late. It took me a little bit while to sign with Phoenix, and I was a holdout for about a week. "It's about time you fucking got here." He goes, "Let's go kick some ass." He says, "I got 2 rules." He goes, "Give the puck to Big Walt, and rule number 2, fucking give the puck to Big Walt." That was both of it. I'm like, "That's it?" He goes, "That's it. That's it." And I was like, "Oh, you and I are going to get along great." But he did. He wore a robe and slippers around the locker room. He was one of the most intimidating, but one of the most strongest personalities in the locker room that I've ever seen. And he was great to the trainers. I've never seen a player or a captain take care of people and make sure that the people that take care of us are well taken care of. And Walt was that type of guy. You did not step out of line when Big Walt was the captain. He was I still love him to death, and he's one of my idols still today. No question.
Yeah, JR, we're going way back here. Lead the World Juniors in scoring. You play on a fucking line with Modano and Leclerc. Was that you guys all turn out to be legends in the league? Is that something you guys talked about throughout your careers?
It is, and so Leclerc was on one side, and then later in the tournament it was Amante. So it was myself, Modano, and Amante. I mean, you talk about those 4 players and how many goals combined between the 4 of us. It's pretty unbelievable. But yeah, I mean, I've talked to Johnny a lot about growing up and being a U.S. guy and doing, playing in those games, playing in the Olympics, and being able to represent USA like we did. It was an amazing accomplishment, an amazing feeling. And I remember coming out of that the juniors that year. I was playing in Hull for 20. I think I played in Hull 26 games before the junior tournament in 1989, and just tore apart the tournament, and literally came back, had an injury, and got called up in an emergency recall situation with Chicago on Valentine's Day, and scored my first NHL goal, and really never went back to the show. But it was that.
Oh no.
Oh no, blacked out.
JR.
Most confident needed. The most confidence I needed moving in. So sorry, somebody was just calling. So, but it's I dominated the World Juniors and loved every bit of it. So thanks, Gums, for going back to the good old days.
Hell yeah. Love the World Juniors around
What
here.
a line though. What a line though. Are
Oh,
you kidding me? That's
sick.
Like, that sounds incredible.
JR, on that note,
what we're playing against? You know who we're playing against in the semifinals? We played against Fedorov, Bure, and Mogilny.
Oh Jesus Christ!
Like, you want to talk about some sheer power? Holy shit and talent!
Wait, they weren't on like on were they on a line?
They were on the power. Yeah, they were on the power play. All three of them on the power play.
Yeah.
Thank goodness I didn't kill penalties.
Was that your favorite line to play with, or did you have a different group of guys that you just enjoyed playing with the most?
So my favorite line was myself, Michel Goulet, and Steve Larmer. They were the guys that taught me the game the most. I think Steve Larmer should be in the Hall of Fame for sure. He was one of the most underrated players in the world.
He ain't the only one, buddy.
Well, we can talk
later about that, but go ahead.
We can hit on that later in the show. Michel Goulet is a 500 goal scorer, is a Hall of Famer, and to be able to learn the game at such a young age with them is unbelievable. And just listening to them on the bench and listening to how they talk, and little things that I learned that I taught other guys as I got older. That was my favorite line.
What you talking about American-born players, like, let's even go with Patty Kane right now. Patty Kane, he's in that conversation with you, with Mo, with Chelly, like best American-born players ever. And like, what is that? I don't know. What is, like, who was your? I'm sure if you ask Patty Kane, like, he's younger than I am, but you guys kind of paved the way there, right? Then it's like we looked up to, as an American-born player, we looked up to you guys. Like, who was the guys? Like, it was kind of this weird. We know that the Miracle on Ice happened in '80, right?
Mm-hmm.
There seemed to be, for me at least, in my mind, was there a gap in time? And then it was like you guys kind of brought it forward quite a bit. But was there someone that you looked up to, USA Hockey? Like, I feel like there's a gap from the Miracle on Ice until we got to that group with you guys.
Yeah, there is. There's a huge gap because the Miracle on Ice, I was 10 years old. Modano was 10 years old. Amonte was 10 years old. Keith Tkachuk was 7 years old. So, but we all remembered it, right? That was like the greatest sports moment in history, and that spurred us on to wanting to be there. But we didn't have big USA players through the 80s. Pat LaFontaine, Chris Chelios, these are the guys that were like the guys in the early 80s, right? 83, 84 that came, that we watched. Tom Barrasso, Joey Mullen, but it was few and far between. It wasn't until the early 90s and you look at that 96 team, that US team. I mean, between Leachy and Chelly and Modano and Tkachuk and Amonte and Leclerc and Detmarsh and Drury, and I mean, you could just go on and on with the players that were on that team, and how that generation created the US superpower. We became a superpower because of that, really, that mid 80s generation that turned into I think the best generation in hockey, which was throughout the 90s. I truly believe that the best players in history as a whole have played in the 90s.
Tell me about because another guy I loved watching play, but I feel like his career was cut short. And you mentioned him, Adam Deadmarsh. I fucking loved him,
Yeah,
man. Like,
awesome.
Tell me, like, educate me on him a little bit more, because I feel like we were gypped out of seeing him more.
Yeah. He was the heart and soul. He was the heart and soul guy. He was the glue guy. Right. So he's one of those guys that everybody loved because he loved playing the game, and he would do anything he had to win the game. He wasn't the most talented. He didn't have the best shot. He didn't skate the fastest, but he was efficient and good at everything. Right. And Deds and unfortunately he's had some pretty major medical issues because of the way that he's played. Concussions and the things that he's had to deal with. But you want to talk about a guy who you do not have to question whether he's all in. And that was Adam Detmarsh. He was all in all the time.
Speaking on that note, JR, how's your body held up? You played 20 years. You played a physical style. You played fast. You played hard. How are you hanging in there?
I feel really good, to tell you the truth. I think I was blessed with one of those freak bodies. I mean, I do. You could ask my wife. I do as much as I possibly can to try to ruin that. But still today, whether it's I still work out. I still work out. I do the circuit training. I go do spin. I still spin. My body feels good. I've so far I still can remember my name, and my brain's still working well. But at 53, playing the way that I played for 20 years, I think I feel very, very lucky. I get up, pretty much, not sore. I walk down the stairs without my knees hurting these days, and I'm blessed for that. But like I said, I think if it were up to my wife, she'd tell me just, hey, let's just settle. Let's settle the travel down. Let's slow yourself down. But I just can't do it. It's part of my life. I have serious FOMO. I have a lot of jobs. I have a lot of businesses, and I love to go, love to travel. But I always say you sleep when you're dead, right? But plus, when you own a whiskey, it's hard to take a couple of days off. But you guys know what it's all about. But
absolutely. How do
one of these days, I'll listen to her and she'll be happy. But I'm lucky. I've been married for 31 years, and she's the one person that tells me what nobody else will, which is great.
Hey, listeners, he's got some wise words for you. How do you feel that competitive edge? Do you get on the ice still at all for like pickup or anything, or have you gotten into golf? Or I know you were a hell of a golfer back in the day, probably still are. How do you feel that juice, the competitive juice there?
Yeah, it's definitely golf. I'm an avid golfer. I play in a lot all the celebrity tournaments. I'll probably play in 4 or 5 a year. So that competition brings out that that mental grind, that competitive grind where you want to beat everybody, you want to win, and sometimes it's to a fault, right? So there's many times I've come home angry because I've lost, even in a Nassau match at my local club here, and I've tried to bring down a little bit of that competitive edge and not have the expectations that I've had for my entire life. And business makes me competitive. I want my whiskey to be one of the best. I want it to be successful. I actually work for a high-end construction company out of San Francisco, where I'm like the head of sales and business development. And my job is to go out and find construction jobs and tenants coming into the market and building as much capital as I possibly can. And I want to be the guy that's at top. I want to be the guy that finds the most jobs and entertains the most people and does the best job and accountable to my guys. So, and you try to be the best at home, right? And I tell you, it's, you wake up in the morning, you make the bed, you do your laundry, you do that. I've learned a lot of this stuff that you have to stay in it. You got to stay competitive. Like, you can't get lazy. I think my marriage is better than it's ever been because I pay attention a little bit more to the things that I didn't pay attention to before, because the little things turn into big things, right? So keeping my brain and doing those things, it is competitive. There's no question about it. And yeah, of course I slack, and I'm a slacker sometimes, but if you ask her, She'll say he's not bad. He's better. He's better. Yeah.
Gumps, go ahead, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, JR, just to go back to that Blackhawks team, Belfour and net.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Stars fan. Belfour goes on to Dallas, wins a cup. I don't think Marty Turco is what he is without Belfour there, to be honest. How great of a teammate was him and playing with him all those years?
He's by far my favorite goaltender that I ever played with, for a lot of reasons. That he was Eddie Belfour. It literally was the typical crazy goalie. Typical, like you game day, don't go near him, don't talk to him, don't touch his equipment. Make sure you stay away from his stall. You know, let him be his own crazy self, because he had a way that he got prepared, and you know, he would sharpen his own skates, and he would literally be in the locker room till 1 o'clock in the morning sharpening his own skates, and wouldn't let anybody touch him. And if you did, you were gonna get punched in the face for sure, for certain, and not even question about it. I remember one practice, we were doing a drill. We were in warm-ups, and Eddie always had this rule: don't shoot above the knees the first 5 minutes of practice, right? So we're doing this drill where we're literally just a basic drill. We're just going to skate up, make a circle inside the blue line, catch a pass from the other team at the red line, you know, go in, take a shot, just simple stuff. Well, Dave Manson comes, first shot, and rings a slapper right off Eddie's ear, like, and everybody kind of went, holy shit. And sure enough, Dave Manson goes again, and he goes through the center ice, and he's looking back to get the pass from the line, and Eddie had already been sprinting out to center ice. And right when Dave Manson received the puck, Eddie just boom, cross-checked him right in the head, and it was a huge melee right in the middle of practice, 5 minutes into practice. And Eddie had taken out Dave Manson, and everybody was fighting, and I'm like, what the fuck did I just getting myself into with these guys? This is like crazy. But he's an amazing man. Eddie's an amazing man, one of the best goaltenders in history of the game. I mean, he's won everything, you know, Stanley Cup, Vezina. You know, he couldn't be more of a great role model. So, and Turco, what you're saying, I'm a big fan of Marty, man. I'm a huge Marty Turco fan. Like, I love him to death, and we play golf together. And you know, he tells me stories of learning under Eddie and being there. And you know, when I got my jaw broken by Darian Hatcher in '98, that was Marty Turco's first game in the pros, sitting on the bench watching all that shit. And the stories that he tells is just awesome. He's just a great man.
Well, didn't leave your legs open in front of the net when Turco and Eddie were there.
No.
Stand in front of the net. You're getting Eddie's giving you the stick.
By the way, the smoothie was always at risk. You have definitely the potential of getting stitched in the smoothie when you play against them.
Hey, so you just mentioned about your jaw, man. That was like one of the worst things I've seen. And you know, we're getting close to playoff time now, and I love the game now. Don't get me wrong, but I love the old school game. I love the old school game. I love the fact that you were this big and you came out with piss and vinegar and running dudes, and you're like, what are you gonna do about it? You know what I mean? Like that's hockey to me. Like you go out there and
but that's not good when you have to fight Probert and you have to fight McSorley and you have to fight and you have to fight, you know, these guys. That's not fun. But you gotta
it's not. Right? It's not fun. It's not fun for you, but what it does for your teammates and other people is like, fucking right, this guy's riding with me. You know what I mean? Like I love that 100%. Stuff. I get my hair stands up on my arms with that. So I want to know though. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's something with you, but something in the playoffs. Like I seen some crazy stuff in the playoffs. I seen John Madden. Like John Madden's got this picture. I play with him in Jersey he's got this shiner like. His entire face is a bruise. And he's got stitches like all the way around his eye like this. Barely can see out of his eye. Killing penalties, getting it done, shutting down the other team's top guy. Like, what is one of the most crazy playoff things you've seen a guy play through.
Well, I played with that broken jaw.
Yeah,
from
bro,
Darren
was
Hatcher.
that?
Yeah,
That was.
I was.
So when did
that was the
what
first round?
was that? That was first
game
round.
7.
Okay, that was the
game
playoffs. You
7.
came back.
That was 15 days after I got my jaw broken. I put this big mask on, and I was still wired shut. Couldn't barely breathe, and went on and tried to play that game to beat St. Louis in the first round. It was game 7. We lost 1-0. But I could care less if I went out there and got hit in the jaw again. You break my jaw all over again. I don't need my jaw, well, at least that much to play. I was a bitcher and a yeller and a screamer, but I didn't need my jaw to play. So if I broke my jaw, that'll heal. That's just, and I think you touched on it. Playoffs are the greatest time of the year. It's the best sport playoff time of any sport. And, I would say, March Madness is fun to watch. It's going on right now. But hockey playoffs are the best to watch because the paychecks stop. You start playing for pride, and you play to lift that cup. And Rupper, I've always been, very envious of the people that have done it, like yourself. Obviously, being in the situation where you did it, you got to get that clincher. That like you reached that epitome that all of us play so hard in the playoffs to do, is have that ability to not only just win the Stanley Cup, but have something, very, very strong to do with it, and a big impact of it. But that's what hockey players. When we do it to try to raise the hardest trophy in the world and all of sports. And I never got to do it, which will always be, in the back of my mind, but doesn't define me. But, playoffs are a different animal. And by the way, hockey players are different animals. And they just something about that trophy just turns a different twitch in your brain.
No, it's funny though. It's my last one, Nick. You take it home. It's funny because I felt like in the playoffs, when the playoffs started, my life stopped. Like,
yes,
I stopped, like, for real. Like, I stopped. Hey, Mrs. Little before, I guess, auto pay on your bills and shit.
Sure.
I wouldn't pay bills, dude. Like, I wouldn't answer mail. I wouldn't answer phone call. I wouldn't talk to family. Like, I would just like it was. I
stopped changing diapers. Stopped changing diapers.
Everything's done.
Everything.
It's like I'm here for this. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And is kind of selfish as this may sound, like that's where I wanted to be, because I dreamt about being in that moment. I didn't want anything to be an excuse in that moment. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love that stuff, and I love when the playoffs are like, there's years when you go on playoff runs where you get sick of you're eating the same damn meals, same night, same routine, same guys. But dude, you sit there now and you think about it now, it's like those were the days, right?
Oh, unbelievable. And you're right. And a lot of times you leave the house, you go stay in a hotel so you can totally be entrenched in the game 24 hours a day. And that you need to do that to win in the playoffs. You need to be in it all the time, thinking about it all the time. And I was fortunate to have, like I said with Tracy, she's like, get out of here, like this is your time.
Go
summer's our time.
That's pretty cool. Yeah,
just go. And never once was there an issue. I've had some players and teammates that I've had that did not think that way, that got up at 3 a.m. to change and feed their babies when there are huge games on the line in the playoffs. Okay. And I don't get along with those people. I don't think like those people. I don't, tell you the truth. I respect their talents, but I don't like the way that they approached the biggest part of the season, because it was not the most important part of their lives for that point. And yes, I know family is really important. Don't get me wrong. But when you have 2 months that you have to put together, and it doesn't take much to do the little things and be all in, that's why teams win. That's why teams win, because there's more people that are all in, that live the game for 24 hours a day. In the playoffs, you can't just show up and put your skates on and think you're going to do well if you haven't gone through through the game mentally and prepared to do the right things. And the littlest things you will lose. And I've learned that along the way.
That's incredibly well said, JR. Our boss, Pat McAfee, always talks about you hear guys
Oh,
when they
awesome.
give Hall of Fame speeches, and after championships and whatnot, they always say, I wish I would have been there more for my family, for my kids, for my friends and everything. But like, that's what it takes to be great, is you have to make those sacrifices.
100%. That's, winning is not given, it's earned.
Oh yeah.
Well said. I got one more for you. Yeah. And we greatly appreciate you taking the time here. It's kind of a two-parter, but I want to know, you mentioned your jaw. A lot of us know that you actually broke your jaw twice in your career. Was that the worst injury you had? And if not, what was? And then I like to ask a lot of guys who come on the show, who's the toughest player you had to play against? A lot of them often say Chris Pronger, but I was curious because I know you go back a generation before that even. So I was always curious who that would be for you.
Well, my second jaw break was the worst. I took a slap shot from Boris Moranov in Madison Square Garden and just shattered my jaw in like 25 different places, and it was awful.
What do they even do for that?
Well, I stood up, and they were holding my jaw together, and I skated off the ice and actually got a standing O from Madison Square Garden as a Philadelphia Flyer. And Rupper,
wow.
you know how crazy
that shouldn't happen.
Is.
That shouldn't happen, man.
Now listen, they were probably cheering that I got hurt and that and all that stuff and happy, but I'll take it that they were giving me kudos for skating off the ice with a demoralized jaw. But so that was the worst injury that I had in my playing days. As terms of the toughness, I think there's different kinds of toughness, guys, and you guys, I think, will agree. There's tough fighters that will fight and guys that you just never want to fight. Like I told you, I fought Martin McSorley. I fought Bob Probert. I fought, Berube. I fought, Mark Bell. I fought Scott Walker. I fought, Darcy Tucker. I fought all the tough guys, and one guy would never fight ever is Ty Domi, and I would never fight Ty Domi because I have a problem with fighting somebody who gets happier when they get hit in the face. I have a problem with looking at somebody. I have a problem looking at somebody whose head looks like it's made of Teflon. And it's like, how are you going to hurt this person? And Ty Domi, and I love him to death, was one of the best, toughest fighters, toughest people that can play the game as well. So my respect for him went up. And then there's a toughness that you can never push out of the game that will hurt you in many different ways, whether it's physically, mentally, on the scoreboard. And that guy for me was Mark Messier. Mark Messier was one of the most intimidating figures that I ever played against. You just look at him now with that big square jaw, that head of his, and those eyes, and then we all know what he's done in his career, winning games by himself. In 1990, when they won the Cup against the Bruins, they played us in the semifinals, and in the clinching game in Chicago, game 5, he beat us by himself. He had 4 goals and assists, beat us by himself, and probably hurt 3 other guys physically while doing it, and laughed as he walked off the ice. It's just, he was the ultimate complete player to me, besides watching Gordie Howe. To me, he was the toughest and most intimidating guy to play against, for sure.
You know what? It's funny because these guys have heard this story, and our listeners have as well. We had Mess on earlier in the year.
I was about to say, it's a good thing you didn't do what you wanted to do, Rupper.
Yeah, I want to bring this up to JR because here's the little story. I was trying to make the Devils. I was playing in the American League in Albany, and you know how it is. It's a little different for you maybe because you came in as a high prospect and a young kid that was making the team. But whatever, you want to get noticed, dude. Like that's how I was always taught. Yep. It was like I was an American kid playing in the Ontario Hockey League.
Make your mark, baby. Make your mark.
Get on the score sheet. What does that mean?
Yep.
Surely I'd love to score a goal, get on the score sheet that way. But if not, then I'm going to get noticed another way, right? So I'm playing preseason game. I don't know. This might be my last preseason game ever. I may never get an NHL game. So I want to get noticed. So I'm Mess's 39, 40, 41, somewhere in that range. I'm 20 maybe. And I'm lining up for a face-off against MSG. I'm Devils, he's Rangers. And it's coming out of a TV timeout. And obviously I watch Mess play. I know he's tough as nails. I know he's incredible, whatever. Anyways, I'm lining up for the draw. I look across at him, and I'm like, and all of a sudden it dawns on me, get on the fucking score sheet, man. And I'm like, I'm gonna fucking no, JR, I'm like, I'm gonna fucking jump him. I'm gonna jump him. I say, you know what? Like, I don't think it's respectful, but at this point, I don't give a shit. I don't care about being respected. I want to be noticed. That's what I want. Yep. So 100%. I'm like, I'm gonna jump this motherfucker. You know what I mean? And I'm sitting there and I'm like staring at him. And Mess ain't even looking at me. He's like, you know, TV timeout. He's coming out of it. Coming in to take the draw. He's looking at the referee's hands. I'm just staring at him. I'm like, holy fuck. Like, and then it dawned on me in that moment. This guy's tough as fucking nails. Like, if he's 40 years old and I'm 20 and he beats the wheels off me, that's fucking worse than getting noticed. That might be the wrong way to get noticed, right?
That's right.
I was telling Mess this story earlier, and he laughed about it. You know, he's being humble, Mess, and he's like, "Oh, well, I would have had my hand. No, fuck off. You would have beat me up, and I never would have played in the league." But anyways, they go to drop the puck, and I'm staring at him. They drop the puck. I don't even move. I'm like frozen. And he wins the draw and skates away. I'm like, oh, that was stupid. But it was like you wanted to get noticed.
You were noticed. You were noticed. Of why the fuck didn't you do anything? That's awesome. That's great. Yeah, he's a wonderful man. I love Mess. He's great. He used to do this. He used to do this thing at center ice at the first draw, the opening draw. And I always remember going up to the referee before we got to this, you know, right before the first initial face-off. And I said, do me a favor, drop the puck as fast as you can, please. Don't let's sit in there so we have to. And because I always knew that Mess would do this thing to get in your head right off the first shift. The puck would drop and Mess would pretend that he lost his footing backwards and the stick would come up as you're down and he would try to clip you in the head right off the bat. So I literally would go in. I said to the ref, drop the puck quick, and I would be like, I'd be back here getting ready to take the puck. I said, I'm gonna be 0-1 to start the night and face-offs because it was Mess.
But no stitches though.
Yeah, no stitches. No, my eye is gonna be intact, and let Mess take the first one, but I'm not getting involved in the first one.
Oh, so good, so good.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah. So it's all good, good stuff.
Jeremy, we can't thank you enough, man. You've been extra grateful and gracious with your time. It's an incredible honor to talk to you. You've had an amazing career. We miss you on TV. It sounds like you're killing the business world, though. So nothing but positive vibes sent in your way, man.
Well, I appreciate it. You know, I think I love the game. You know, I live out in San Diego right now. There's no hockey team here. I try to watch as much as I possibly can. I think the game now is so much fun to watch with their talent. You know, watching Connor McDavid play and McKinnon play and these guys, you know, watching Patrick Kane, you know, pass me and points was pretty awesome earlier this year. The game is as good as it's ever been, and I'm looking forward to playoffs and seeing my boy Rupper. It's always a treat.
Thanks, Jared.
Appreciate it. Good to see you, bud. And by the way, Gumps, I'm a big Dallas Stars fan too because I love Joe Pavelski. So there we go.
Yeah,
there we go.
Let's win the cup, huh, JR?
Hey, listen, I'm in for that one. I would love to see Big Joe win one. That would be unbelievable. Big Robertson fan too. So cheers to you with that one.
Cheers, JR.
JR, thank you so much, sir. We got to get you back on sometime, man. We really appreciate
it.
Hey,
anytime. I'm always around for you guys. That was a lot of fun. You guys are awesome.
Thank you, brother.
All right.
Legend, dude.
How good is he, man? Right?
He's the best.
Dude, he's incredible, you know? Like, I always get impressed when it's like, he kind of touched on that, like, I don't want to say that because I don't think he's perceived as being an asshole, but like JR is, and I'll say this, like, he was nice to me when no one was looking. You know, I was a young kid and he didn't have to be. He was, you know, like, and he's a persona on the ice. You know, he says he pushes buttons, but like, a good dude, man. I love the fact that he, you know, he's a great storyteller too. Great,
unbelievable.
Stars fan, dude. I need to get much better.
That's all you need. You had me at Stars.
That was cool about Belfour, man, because I always thought that like Turco and Belfour together were like, I seriously think Turco would not have been what he was without Belfour. And to hear JR talk about the two of them, that was
cool,
fucking awesome, man.
Takes
you back to the fucking your childhood.
It really
dude.
does. Him talking about those that era of USA hockey and some of those names you hear, and I remember watching the World Cup back then and those international games and everything, and it was just it takes you back to a spot where he's right. I agree with him. Maybe it's because I was a kid and I looked up to all those guys when you were younger, but like that era of '90s hockey, it felt like they just had superstars everywhere. And now, you've got the McDavids, you got the Dreisaitl's, we're the generation of Crosby and Ovechkin and Malkin and everybody, Kane and Taves is kind of on the way out. And you've got the McDavid, Dreisaitl's moving in now. But like back then, I don't know. It just felt like bigger. It felt like you had so many guys that were so good on a bunch of different teams and the talent was everywhere.
Dude, Canada and the US would show up with fucking 3 stand on your head goalies.
Yeah.
Like Canada lost their first game, I think, in the Olympics with Cujo in net. Fucking throw in Luongo, throw in Brodeur. Like it was fucking insane. Same with this, like Tony Amonte. I haven't heard his name in fucking
I love Tony
years,
Amonte.
dude.
Tony Amonte had some of the best
stud.
Some of the best equipment style going too. He had the locks with the hair, the skates, tongues down. Like it was nice. It was solid. But boys, I gotta find that picture to show you guys. I look like such a little shitbag. And I had my jersey tucked in all the way around, and I had the long tackle belt like JR did. Just you skate down the ice and the tackle belt's like flying in the air. Like fuck.
How was your hair? Did you have a little hair? Could you have a little flow coming out the back back then?
I did. That year actually I didn't. I had a side part before side parts were cool. It was nice, man. It was nice. But it was JR was I just loved his like I don't know. I loved it.
He was before his time. He was before his time.
He was like he'd get 100 points. He'd run you at center ice. He'd run his mouth. I'm like, whoa, this guy's like for me. And I have a great history of the game at that time. I mean, when I came up and like I'm watching very late 80s, early 90s hockey, and I'm like, this sport's fucking cool because of JR. You know what I mean? Like he like pushed the envelope. He was like, you're like a quiet kid, and I'm like, that's who I wanted to be, but I didn't feel like I could be. You know what I mean? Like, so it's cool watching him be like that.
It's wild to hear him say how like shy and timid he was, and how he had to grow into that.
How about 150 pounds drafted? 150 pounds, dude, and he's going and wrecking dudes. NHL 94, the best player ever on NHL 94 for Sega Genesis, and he's bloodying people's heads in that. Remember that? Remember how the cheat code for that too?
Sat out for a week before he signed with the Coyotes. Like nobody was doing that back then. No. Nobody, dude.
Yeah, it was different. He's different, man. I love it.
Absolute legend.
Imagine fucking those two fucking lines. You fucking Fedorov, Mogilny, and Bure against JR, Modano, and Leclerc. In the
you imagine Sergey? You can imagine Sergey? Can you imagine Sergey Fedorov being the slowest player on a line?
Dude. Unbelievable, man.
No,
sorry. Went to a place there. Went back to 1996 there in my head. We should have asked him about trashing the hotel room. That 96 team was known for that, weren't they? Or no, that was the Nagano team. That was 98. Yeah.
It was Nagano 98?
Yeah. 98 or I can't remember. I have to look
what was
it
that?
up.
Like, remember the American team just trashed the
would they come in like 6th or 7th? They just had a bad time, and so they
just went out straight up a hotel room, just flipping chairs and shit in the hotel.
Don't hate it. Don't hate it.
I'll tell you what else we don't hate around here, Gumps. Sponsor for this episode, American Nut Butter, American Dream Nut Butter. Chipwreck this time, Gumps. That's Chipwreck,
man.
I do love Chipwreck.
This is the peanut butter. They've got almond butter, cashew butter, peanut butter. The Chipwreck has chocolate chip chocolate chips in it. It's got a little Oreo-style cookies as well, mixed in with the peanut butter. There's a link in the description to this YouTube Live right now. You click that link, you get 10% off. It's high protein, low carb, low sugar, handcrafted, American made, baby. That's what it's all about. Shout out to American Dream Nut Butter. Go check them out because this stuff is delicious. Rupper, we talked about a little bit at the beginning of the episode. Gumps is hurting because the Stars have
Hold the phone. Hold the phone. We got a fucking penalty shot.
Who?
Missed. Fuck.
Who had it? What team?
Leafs had it. Aston Reese missed.
Why are you riding the Leafs now?
Because the fucking Panthers laid a fucking egg in Ottawa the other night. I'm not taking them going into Toronto. It's 22 shots to 9, Rupper.
Yeah, they're getting outshot quite a bit right now.
They're wearing the Bieber tarps. They're wearing the Bieber tarps tonight, dude.
How you gonna stop them with the Bieber tarps, you know?
Yeah, they got Alex Lyon playing right now too.
Lion? Which leads us into what we were talking about earlier. Gump's a little worried about this playoff matchup potential with Colorado because Dallas has been snoozing a little bit and let Minnesota and Colorado catch up on them.
Dude, we fucking boat raced them on a Saturday afternoon. We just rolled out of bed. Come on, dude.
Meanwhile, in the East, you got the Florida Panthers and Pittsburgh Penguins in a who wants it the least battle for the last wild card spot. Because I think they both know you got to go up to Boston and play the Bruins in a best of 7. You're going to get your teeth kicked in. So it's been a real treat watching our teams in these playoff battles right now.
Yeah, it's a grind. It's a grind. I mean, it feels like when we talked about the Western Conference being that conference of like a snail's race to who wants to be in the fucking playoffs. Like, what are the Winnipeg Jets doing? You know what I mean? Like, Calgary's only 2 points back now. And then the East was different. It seemed fine. Then all of a sudden, it's like the Islanders win a little bit. They've separated themselves. Now it's like, I'm like, oh, the Pens are good now. And the Pens don't really want to be serious right now. And neither do the Panthers. So it's like, I still think it'll probably be the way it is right now. The Pens will end up getting in. But dude, like, what's happening right now? I don't know what to make of it. Like, just and some of these games aren't even like they're losing to better teams. Like they're losing to shit teams. You know what I mean? Like, makes no sense.
It's tough. It's tough. You're right. It makes no sense. But let's talk about a team that does make a little sense. Let's talk about a team that is poised to do some damage in the playoffs. Let's talk about the New Jersey Devils because we got a chance to have a conversation earlier in the day with New Jersey Devils general manager Tom Fitzgerald, who's a legend in his own right in his playing career, had some really big moments in the NHL. Now he's built this Devils team into a contender. Like they had such an incredible season. Yeah, sure, tough matchup, but if you get past that round 1, hey, anything can happen.
I'm saying the Devils are a tough matchup for
yeah.
I think the Devils are going to be creating some problems in the playoffs.
So, full disclosure, we got a chance to talk with Tom earlier. Hand up, I messed up a little bit, and I had to clean up, and we lost the first question of the interview. And I feel bad because it was a great answer. He talked about the goaltending there in New Jersey and how they've rebuilt that and all the struggles they went through with getting Corey Crawford, who then signs and then all of a sudden doesn't want to play hockey anymore, going from Jonathan Bernier into with Akira Schmid for coming up from the USHL and getting Vitek Vanacek and the assets they gave up to go to Washington and bring him over, and how they've kind of built now a steady stable there with him and Mackenzie Blackwood as well. So I wanted to at least give Tom's answer a little bit there, while from what I could remember of it at least, because he gave an incredible answer and I screwed it up in the editing process. But I will say I gave a great intro. That was also
it was a solid intro, dude. It was a great intro.
I'm gonna try and give it again, and then we're gonna jump right into the interview with Tommy. So, ladies and gentlemen, joining us now, this man was a first-round pick, 17th overall in the 1986 NHL entry draft. That's the year I was born. Now he's the one doing the drafting. He played over 1,000 games in the show. He's the first player ever to score 2 shorthanded goals in the same penalty kill against my beloved Pittsburgh Penguins back in 1993. He went on to the Florida Panthers in the expansion draft and fucking stabbed the Pens in the heart again with a Game 7 winner, moving on to the East from the Eastern Conference Finals to the Stanley Cup Final. He was the first captain in the history of the Nashville Predators. He then became an assistant GM for the Pens, helped them do some great things, and now he's he is the general manager of the New Jersey Devils, poised to make a run for the Stanley Cup once again. Ladies and gentlemen, Tom Fitzgerald.
There's times where I'm like, this team can score goals. Like, scoring goals is not a problem for the Devs. Even last year, I felt like this year, like, the D core is really solid too. I think it's one of the more underrated defensive corps in the NHL, and very shrewd move with going and getting John Marino. He's fit in really good. It seems like. Can you talk about that D core, and just they just all seem to complement each other really well. And I think that's one area that I don't think it's talked about enough, is like the D structure, not just from the D core, the team, like that's changed immensely from last year.
Yeah, I think the personnel side of it was something that I really wanted to kind of manage. You know, I wanted to be bigger. I wanted to be more mobile. I wanted to end plays quicker. We had a lot of good defensemen. We were probably on the smaller side, probably not as mobile as you'd like, but getting some size and mobility back there. You know, you make the trade for Siegenthaler at the deadline, a young talent that wasn't getting an opportunity in Washington. You give up, you know, some assets for him. You got to give up to get, right. Then getting the blessing from ownership to go after a player like Dougie Hamilton. Prior to that, it was, you know, making a trade for Ryan Graves, big, mobile, has some experience in the playoffs. Yeah, that was really the number one job for me to try to build up. Anyways, you know, then you get a chance to trade for John Marino. You know, like you everybody's in different situations. You have teams in who don't have much cap space. Maybe they want younger talent. And that's exactly what happened. You know, he was expendable there, but they got a good young, you know, talent in Ty Smith. So, like, he's going to be an NHL player. It's, you know, some cost certainty for them. But you know what? We just identified the size, the mobility, you know, the respect of shutting teams down and understanding how to play without the puck. Plus, they're all good puck moving defensemen. So, you had Kevin Ball. We added Brendan Smith, who's got some experience in the playoffs, hardness. So we really do feel like we've got a good mix. And obviously we drafted, you know, some younger talent and Luke Hughes and last year with Simone Nemec. So we feel like we've got some good players coming. You know, Damon Severson's been, you know, he's been here forever. He's been great, you know. So it's like we just felt like, I do think, to your point, Mike, we may have an underrated defense, but we're big, we're mobile, we can move pucks, and that's all our forwards care about, is just being able to kill plays down low and transition it back up ice.
Tom, I wanted to ask you, as a general manager, how much are you paying attention to what other teams are doing? Obviously, you've got the finger on your pulse on your own team, but as fans, we look, and fan bases, we look at what other teams are doing in the division. We say, oh, we got to stack up with this team for the playoffs. Oh, they just added this player. I hope we had this player, and so on and so forth. What's that mindset like when you're taking care of your own team? Are you paying attention to what the other teams are doing at the deadline, or is it more like, okay, we know what we need, we know what we want to add to make our team, we're not so much worried about everybody else?
Well, I'll tell you, back in 2020, when I presented my blueprint to ownership, not part of the blueprint was what the Rangers do, what the Flyers do, what the Islanders do, what Carolina. It wasn't. I don't really care. It was all about how are we going to build around the pillars that we have, the players that we want to build around. How can we do that? How can we leverage future assets with older players? And then you get to where we're at, and it's like, okay, what do we need? what are we trying to do here? Is there players out there that could come into our organization and grow with the pillars, the young players, the Jack Hughes, Nico Hischies, the Jesper Bratz, like that was in particular, guys. That was really the goal. You get an opportunity to trade for Timo Meier. Like, you don't pass up on that because of where he's at in his career, where we're at in our timeline, and how he can help us. So no, I don't. I don't care what the Rangers did or do. I don't care what the Islanders did or do. I'm not a reactionary person. I have a plan. I've stuck with it, and I'm just checking boxes as I go.
So it wasn't all credit to Rupper for the Timo Meier trade. That had nothing to do with it.
No, Rupper was a big fan of Timo Meier, and I know that. But Rupper knows that I'm not a reactionary person, and I didn't do it because another team got Bo Horvat. It was, this is what fit. In all seriousness, this is what fit us. He's a perfect fit with us. I hope I hope there's a long-term marriage here between the two of us, and we'll get to that at some point. But I just want our players to concentrate on the rest of the regular season and get prepared for the playoffs.
One more from me, and then I'll toss it over to Gus. When we think of the New Jersey Devils, a lot of us, we think back to the old days of Marty Brodeur and obviously the legend himself, Mike Rupp, but Scott Stevens, Petty Elias, all those guys, they played that trapping defensive style hockey. You guys, I don't want to say you're the exact opposite, but a lot of young, really, really talented guys with a lot of offensive skill. And as you mentioned earlier, not afraid to make mistakes or anything. Was that a conscious thing? Or was it just, this is what we have, this is the way we're going to play. We're going to play this exciting style of hockey, and let's forge our own identity.
Well, I think when you go back to, what was the year when I hired Lindy? I wanted somebody who understand how to develop players, young players. How can we create offense? How can we not, handcuff these young players and let them just, like I said earlier in the interview, like let these young stallions run. Your play away from the puck wins hockey games. And that's what we had to learn. And we are learning. And we're still work in progress for sure. But I wanted big mobile defensemen who can shut down players. It's a fluid game now. And Mike would tell you the same thing. It's a quick transition game. Teams want to set up in the trap. The only way to break that is quickly transition, so they can't set up. So I wanted you gotta be able to skate. You got to think fast. You got to be able to move puck fast. So that's what I was looking for as part of, or really what I was looking for in my personnel. I think Lindy's done a great job along with our staff. But the days of the trap are they're not gone. It's still there. You see teams sit back in the neutral zone and play a 1-2-1 or a 1-3-1, and you've got to think differently. But the real reason for the way to get by that is, when pucks come back to the neutral zone, you just want to be able to transition, quick transition, play fast and strike fast, and we've got the personnel to do that. You always want good puck moving defensemen. We not only have that now, we've got it coming with the two particular players I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, Tom, I didn't think you guys were going to lose a game when you went on that winning streak. I was pretty sure you were going to run the fucking table. How big do you think that streak was for some of the younger guys, just confidence-wise, and for the team as a whole to just know that this team was for real?
Oh, huge. As Jack says, we're on a heater. And when you get on these heaters, you don't think of the next loss. You feel confident, and Rupper knows as a player. It's like you just keep rolling and just keep doing what you know instinctively, and you believe the results are going to be there. And on the flip side, and we've been there. It's like, geez, are we ever going to win a game? We've played well. We haven't. But I think that really set the tone. And one of the things I look back on is we did that without one of the most important pieces of our team, and Andre Palat. And then you thought, take your time, make sure you're fully healthy, and when you come back, it's like adding at the deadline. So we did that with him. And Vitek, McKenzie got hurt in Edmonton, and Vitek stepped up. So there's a lot of good stories within the big story. We've accomplished a lot, but we've accomplished nothing. yet, and we know that. And just being where we are this point in the season, we're not satisfied. And I can speak for my entire organization. We're not satisfied.
Like as an outsider watching, I love the progression of Jack over his first number of years, like just getting better and better, right? Like it just finds another level in this confidence. And I almost feel like over the last couple of years, his body language, it's like speaking a language. When he has that puck each year, it's like he's different with that puck, right? And he controls the play, the tempo. He's got a little bit of that. I know there's been those comparisons of Patty Kane back in the day with him, but this year shooting the puck, like scoring goals. Like, was that something that was talked about? Did Jack, or is that just him just working at the craft and deciding like, hey, I want to be, I don't want to be one. Not that he was ever one dimensional, but doesn't want to be attacked the one way. Like keep the opponent guessing a little bit.
For sure. You know what? Like I think a lot of people would say he probably shouldn't have been in the NHL at 18. But I think being in the NHL at 18 was the best thing that ever happened to him, to understand where our league is at, where he was at from a physical standpoint, from a skill standpoint. Sure, he could skate, but, where was his shot at that time? He's a savant. He just takes notes. He knows what he needs to do, and he puts the effort in. He went back and he worked on that shot. Like he worked on that. He worked on, the one thing, I'll go back, the one thing that may got lost in all Jack's development was, he played as an 18-year-old. We did not get invited to the bubble. The league didn't start till January, and he had that extension of his off-season workouts to put in. Like it was 3 extra months. Like he came back looking like a different kid. He looked like a young man. He really did. So he did put the time. To me, that's the silver lining of where Jack Hughes is at. He got that extra time to get stronger, to work on the things that he felt he needed to work on, his shot. It's got some quick release, a quick zip on it. It's got obviously some accuracy, things that I don't know about. But so he's really put the work into it. He respects the league, and he knows exactly what he needs to do to be the best player he can. And I really do credit him playing as an 18-year-old and understanding the downside. The thing he said to me at the year-end interview that year was he didn't really know how good NHL defensemen were, how big, how mobile, how lengthy they are, and how they take your time and space away. Again, he would have learned that at 19, and we may not see the Jack Hughes we see now if he didn't play as an 18-year-old.
I got one more for you, and I'll kick it over to these guys. You mentioned something earlier, it got me thinking. I'd love to, if you can kind of pull back the curtain a little bit on, maybe not even necessarily in your position with the Devils, but just in your up and coming of becoming a GM. Like when you're interviewing with the team, you said your presentation or whatever your exact words were. And I remember
my blueprint.
Your blueprint. Thank you. I've talked to a couple guys who've interviewed for different GM jobs and I found it very interesting because I'm sure every interview process is different from one to the other, but I've heard stories where some people are like, what would you do with my team? What would you do with this team? What would you, and that's like kind of like, you got to go in there and you got to really have conviction in what you're doing. Like, can you take us through what that process looks like and how much? I've seen another guy that had like a book that he presented everything that he thought was the direction of this team. I mean, you're really putting it all out there where it's either yes or no, and is it a stressful situation?
Well, I've prior to this, I have been on other interviews and finalists for one job. You know what? You have to be honest. You just have to look at big picture. Age comes into the fact. You want to be in the mushy middle. How do you want? And that's not saying you got to tank. That's not it at all. But understand where you're at, what your assets are. How do you get future assets? Ray Shero came in here and brought me in, and I learned so much from him. He went through it in Ottawa as an assistant GM. I went through it in Nashville as an assistant GM. And then when he got to Pittsburgh, he understood the pieces that he had and what he was able to add, including a Mike Rupp. But
Hell
but
yeah.
seriously, but seriously, like it was. You have to understand, or you got to look at from a 30,000 foot view down on. Okay, really, where are we at? And you got to be honest too, where you're at. You can keep thinking you're there, but there's a way to get back to the top if you can make the right moves. Anyways, here, you know what? I was lucky enough to, I want to say interview, but at least show them that I'm ready for the job. I have great help. Listen, you guys are a great team because you're a team, and I have a great team here in New Jersey. And the help that I got building out with what my vision was and how we can lay that to paper and present that to ownership and say, like, we're real. Like I'm a real person who thinks he can be a general manager long term, and this is my vision. Thankfully, they accepted that, saw it the same way, and here we are.
Dom, one more from me. You mentioned it. You're a general manager. Here you are. You're at the pinnacle. There's only one place to go but up, and that's hypothetically, if you were in Gary Bettman's shoes and you were a commissioner for a day, let's say, what's something you would change about the game? Is there something you would implement, something you would take away, or or a change you would make if you were in charge?
That's a good question, tough question. Like I think the game's never been in a better place. It's a fast game. It's an entertaining game. I think we're all excited about where it's at. Can we correct some things? Like I'm a big overtime guy. I think if we could extend overtime, like a couple minutes versus go right to the shootout, that'd be great. But the game's in a great place. It really is. And I say that because my exciting to watch 3-on-3. However, you don't play 3-on-3 in the playoffs. So, but no, I love where the game's at, and I think we've all adjusted to how the game is. It's fast. We talked about it earlier. Transitioning pucks fast, moving pucks fast, thinking fast. Not only skating fast. The game is so fast. It's incredible. It's the greatest game on earth. It really is. Greatest team sport on earth, and I'm just thrilled and excited and honored to be part of it.
Tom, thank you so much, man. We really appreciate you taking the time and making time for us, man. Thank you and good luck.
Awesome. See you guys.
Bury those Rangers, Fitzy.
All right.
Thanks, Fitzy.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Tom Fitzgerald, general manager of the New Jersey Devils. And boy, what an episode we've had today. I can't thank everyone enough for watching. We appreciate you for taking the time. Keep spreading the love. Keep telling everybody about the show. Tell them to subscribe to the YouTube. Keep sending the link out. You guys